brings us up to the Gibson County Service Organization and its beginnings. December 1941, after Pearl Harbor, a committee of patriotic women from Princeton took a large amount of homemade cookies to Evansville to assist in caring for a convoy of troops that had been on the way to training camps. From that beginning, the idea of Gibson County organization to care for the needs of men had begun. Since troops were already starting to pass through their community, there were people doing some work but needed to be organized. First meeting on January 19th, this is from the newspaper on the 17th, was to be held across the street in the Armory. Right there is where they had the first meeting. And I don't know whether or not it was her background or not, but they elected my grandmother as president of the group. Harley C. Meredith, who I haven't run that one down. D.L. Moore was the secretary, and someone named J. Poole Clemens. A lot of us know that name because Mrs. Clemens taught 5th grade at Lowell. Now, what kind of impact this group had? Here are some of the things. February 4th, 1942, there's a whole community helping. Now get this, hold on to this, Greg, listen to this. Free water from the city. Ice from Francis Henneberger. And they got donation from selling rubber because they needed rubber not from, scrap everything. They were hunting for anything to get a hold of. Now, there is the Gibson County Service Organization on a snowy day. Probably, I'm going to say 43, I'm beginning to believe, because I know that from when the flagpole was donated. It came in July of 42 from a couple sisters and another fella who was in business here, and they donated the flag and the pole and put it up. Here we have ladies serving the troops. My grandmother's on the right. Note the men who's off to the right on the cart. And they look like they're signing something. They're writing stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then there's an unknown lady who, at first I didn't know either one of the two, but now I've been told that one of the ladies on the right of the two ladies is Dorothy McFadridge Schiff. That came from her daughter. But these men were from the U.S. Air Corps. The only way you know is that there's a tag on one of their shoulders. Now, we're getting to something that we're going to have fun with in a minute. I'm going to need my ladies to prepare themselves. See, it's a good view of the front of the canteen, but who's the lady with the basket? And see the soldier on the left? He's got something in his hand. That's right there on, well, they both have, those two men have something in their hands. Now, remember those tickets you received? Dig out your tickets. And Miss Mary may draw a number out. She takes bribes, she says.
9000026. Number 26.
That's me.
It's you. The grand prize. Holy mackerel.
And now look what they're getting. See what the king bar is in the photograph? It's a Zagnut bar. Now you don't know how much trouble that was to try to find. Well, yeah, but for a reasonable price.
Should have went to the Union store. They carried them.
I got them online.
We're only 05. Yep.
Oh, I can see a family fight coming on.
Lucky number 13.
Oh,
Oh, you're gonna win.
let me see.
Who has 30?
That's me.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
Now notice her basket looks like the basket that's in the picture.
008. Who's number 8?
Greg, are you 8? No?
1008, I think, if I'm reading it right.
Let's see if that, check him, I think Mr. Lewis up here may be 008.
Hang on,
He's having to
let me
get his glasses out, he's like me.
Let me see, I've got mine. By golly, it is.
All right. Thank you for wearing your
I
glasses.
wore mine.
One more of this round.
022. There we go. For all the rest of you guys told to be winners, see you after lunch.
Now, that was fun, and I know the Greg in the back row back there will know that when you zoom in on something, it's amazing what you find. And that's an example. Zagnut bar. Now, some of the projects that the Gibson County Service Organization did. Think about this, think of now. How would you raise money now for a project? And
You form a committee.
you form a committee, there you go.
People pay to get off the committee.
Yeah, that's what you pay to get off the committee.
People pay to get off the committee.
Now, some of the projects, July 22nd, 1942, a softball game at Lowell Field. And it was at 7 o'clock at night. And there was 2 games. So those old lights that were down there were probably put up there, that were there when we were young, were probably put there during World War II. Just to,
July, they had daylight and didn't have daylight savings.
no, that's a good point. But the proceeds amounted to $43. It was free admission, but then you paid, paid the free jug. $800 in today's money. So they did okay. Here are some of the committee leaders that there were, and some of these people's names may match up to the ladies in the picture. I just haven't done that research, but that's a good thing for people to look for. But these are they set up schedules for these people to volunteer. Now, who had Miss Lamb? A lot of us had Miss Lamb. World War II, she wrote and directed a United Nations fiesta held at Baldwin Heights School. Brought in $86, $1,600. That doubled the other one. It's easy to figure out for me. But that's what they did. That's what they benefited, and it all went back to the Gibson County Service Organization and stuff. Yeah, there you go. They had Friday night projects. They did a little bit of everything. They had lots of community action. They all got together. Now, guess what else you're doing? This recycle business today is not a new thing. Time to find scrap. And let me tell you, going over these newspaper articles, they scrapped everything.
Here's a special bulletin from Washington.
Here.
Vice Administrator Prentice M. Brown announces that effective today, shoes are rationed. This includes all shoes with leather or rubber soles. Wartime requirements make this necessary. Every person will be entitled to buy 1 pair of new shoes during the next 4 months. There are only 3 things you must know. First, no shoes may be sold to consumers until Tuesday. Second, beginning Tuesday, every person is entitled to buy 1 pair of shoes with stamp number 17 of War Ration Book 1, the Sugar and Coffee Book. Third, the shoe stamp from the ration book of 1 member of a family may be used for any other member of that family group living in the same household. And here's a special word for shoe dealers. Remember, shoes cannot be sold.
I cut them off there, but here's the other thing they were rationing. That's why I know this picture is about the time that was done. Silk and nylon stockings. You could not buy them, and if you had some, you turned them in. Ladies, tough. They even wanted your, now what they use stockings for? Parachutes. Save the soldiers' lives. Here's something else they gave out. Oh yeah, here's some more things. They went over farms. They talked about all the junk that was on farms that they found. You know, old combines, old plowshares. I mean, there was article after article talking about the stuff that would be used for wartime to make tanks, airplanes, etc. I didn't have a color one of these, but this is something else they did. They passed these out. And what they were for, they were red, white, and blue with a blue star. And that was for each person in the household. So otherwise, if you had two people in the household, you end up with 2 blue stars. And if you had a gold star, you lost a loved one. So they were 8.5 by 11. They put them up in the windows. And I'd love to find one of those somewhere.
I think I got one.
You may, yeah, there you go. At least get a copy of it good. Now, here's another thing you got rid of. Before then, on your front of your car, you had license plates also. Guess what? Turn them in. Turn them in. They wanted them. They used them. And if you had an old car parked in the backyard, or 2 old cars parked in the backyard, take the plates off of them. And that's what they wanted. Donations. Soft drink cooler. And hey, and a screen door. You know, very much needed. And then the question is, was their message heard? There is a letter that I do not have, but I've got newspaper proof that it existed, from Kate Smith, who had been somewhere and heard from the boys about Princeton. And she wrote them a letter about that. Now, one of the jobs...
High noon in New York in time for Kate Smith, who will be brought to you every Tuesday and Thursday during the summer by the makers of Sure-Gel, America's fastest selling powdered texting product. Here she is, Kate Smith.
Hello, everybody. Today is a day that no living American can ever forget. Invasion Day, forged into our consciousness in letters of fire. It marks the pinnacle of weeks and months and years of anguished preparation, the consolidating of our mighty forces. This is the hour of the death blow to those our enemies who have spread evil, sorrow, and suffering like a black shadow across the face of this earth.
Now, before I go a little bit farther, young man brought this, young man, you like that, Greg?
Yeah.
Young man brought this in, and it was something they made, am I right, in Southern shops.
Car knockers made them for the troops.
And troops got these. So what I'm holding this up for, one is for, so you can see it on the video, and for any of my folks out there who are on the other end of this, who may have a family member who may have one of these. That's where it's from. It came from here. Great, thank you. Now, cards and letters. You saw earlier, and oh, looky there, she's got it.
Oh.
Make sure you show the video screen now. That's good. I like that.